All right, this next gentleman we have on here, David Selley, is going to tell us what does it take to actually be a great author, but it's not even a great author. It's about actually breaking records, Guinness Book of World Records about being the oldest publisher or writer, author of books.
Creating curiosity by asking better questions. This is Shed Talk.
David, hey, thanks for coming on Shed Talk. How are you?
Well, I'm great, thank you. First time I've been in a shed for a long time. The last time I was in was 110 degrees. It lasted about 10 seconds. So,
Oh my God. And you know what? I'm up in Calgary right now and it's a little warm in here, but it's not like where you're at in Vegas. You're a little hotter there, I am understanding.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. Well, nice to be here. Thank you. I'll be looking forward to chatting with you.
Excellent. So we were just talking a little bit before we just got on air here, and then we're talking, and then here you are writing a books, tons of books to get in the Guinness Book of World Records. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, the Guinness Record thing comes from way back. I mean, when I was a kid in England, growing up during the war, I heard one of my family members told me that somebody in the family years ago, decades ago, had been the world champion clay pigeon shot. And for some reason that stuck. Well, fast forward 30 or 40, 50 years here, I'm 87. So, I got more bounce per ounce than most people half my age. And I'm not dribbling, drooling, or shuffling yet, and that's a good thing. I'm happy to be alive and doing well and very healthy, apparently. So the doctor said. I don't go to them very often, but on this Guinness thing, it's really interesting. My grandson in Hawaii, when he was about 5 years old, he said to me one day, he said, "Papa, you're telling me my story as your stories. Why don't you write them all down and we can read them someday?" And that began to resonate with me. And then finally, I got together about 2.5 million words over about 20 years. And I finally said, the clock is ticking. And I'm very much aware of the downside of the clock. And I said, well, I better do it. So I put it together, and it's kind of a cyclopic thing. It kind of grows. I started with 12. That was my goal. Now it's up to 17. I might have about 18 books done by the end of this year. And to help you with the understanding that the actual record has never been done before. It's never been. Nobody's ever done what I'm doing, and most of them are not capable apparently. And so I'm busy doing it. It's underway. I've got 9 published already this year. I do and I'll give you the story. About 20 years ago, I took a class with Mark Victor Hansen, the chicken soup author, and I spent a week with him and a bunch of other people. He said, "David, don't do one book. Just do a series." So I put together the what it's called the Papa series, and the Papa series is 1 through 9. It's my life story, and the boy in England, the young man in Canada, the businessman in the United States, and so on. So about 7 in that series. The last ones are Jen Marr. I'll show you. I've got this is one of them. Married Forever, which is the seasonality of a marriage. Mine is 65 years long, and I put together because there's a strong relationship between the a relationship and the weather. Spring, summer, winter, fall. And I've taken the time to do that, putting it together. I've also got Gen Mar, which is a generational marketing book. I was very into marketing for a number of years. I've had 3 careers. I was born in England, of course, and ran away from home when I was 15, ended up in Vancouver, became a office boy with the phone company, BC Tel, years ago, and ended up being a district manager in Trail, British Columbia, where I met my wife. She was one of my long distance operators. She actually got my number, and that was it 65 years ago. So we just celebrated our 65th wedding anniversary, and we're alive and kicking. The first one in my series, by the way, the Papa series, is here. Papa #1, which is the boy in England. And most recently, I got a couple more going on here. This one's fun. This book is What Men Know About Women and What Women Know About Men. It's 2 books, actually, with a workbook allowing you to judge how you're doing in your relationship situation. One other book. This is called The Entrepreneur, Papa the Entrepreneur. It's my story of entrepreneurship. I have always been an entrepreneur. I had my stamp business in England when I was in school at age 11, and did well with it. Actually, I always had pocket money. The other kids were broke. So that's it. The story is underway, and it's a living, proving thing. I'm having fun doing it. Frankly, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. So now I want to get into another interesting question. So because you're 80 some odd years old, seven, right? In
Uh-huh.
great shape, and there's a lot of men out there that are asking that question. What do you do to keep yourself at 87? And you sound great. You're on cue. You're dialed in. Where was there any time after 50? I'm going to look at any time after 50 that all of a sudden your life had to change it. You said, okay, I got to slow down. I got to do something or create ambition. Like you seem to be going all the time. Was there ever a slowdown in between there?
Yes, actually, there was. We lived in Hawaii for a number of years for a couple of reasons. Hawaii used to be part of my corporate shtick when I was in the corporate world for about 20 years in the cosmetic business. And I got to like Hawaii, parts of it anyway. But the reason we were there is our son is a 100% disabled Air Force veteran. And way back, he was critically ill in Europe. We had to literally go to Congress to save his life, had him emergency air vac out of Europe. And then his wife abandoned him and the boys when they were 2 and 3 years old. So we've basically raised his kids, and they are now in their 20s. One's going to be a professor of history. The other one is going to be a pilot with Hawaiian Airlines.
Oh,
And they're both good kids, 4+ students, terrific. So they're off and running on their own life. And I've decided, well, we'll go back to Las Vegas, which I'm familiar with, of course, from my years of being in California. And we're here for the stretch, so to speak. And it's a great place for what I do, by the way. Las Vegas is the convention capital of the world. There's always something going on here, and it's a great place for publishing, public relations, PR, and getting the word out for what you're doing. And I like it here because it's kind of fun. Actually, we enjoy it.
so when you're doing these books and everything that where you are right now at 80, and I keep going back to the 87 because I'm really impressed with this that you're dialed in because there's a lot of men that are not dialed in at 87. They're not even they can barely walk and they're moving around.
Mhm.
And I really want to get into that more that spry in your that spark in your life to keep going. Is there something that keeps you focused? Is there something that you're always doing every day, like meditation or something that keeps you really on top of your game?
Well, it all boils down. First of all, I think it's a huge amount of attitude, what your attitude is towards life and where you're at. And since you control that, regardless, you do control your life. If you don't make plans, then you're not going to achieve much of anything. It takes three things to be happy. Okay, someone or something, or maybe a four-legged friend to love, or another human being, hopefully. The second thing is something to do that you actually like. It's very important that you like what you do. I spent 25 years in the corporate world. I was literally a square peg in a round hole. When I got fired from that, best thing that ever happened to me, frankly, because it turned on a switch that I'd always had in my body, but I'd never turned it on. So I finally did it. And the third thing, of course, is something to look forward to. It all boils down to your attitude of where you're at, because it doesn't really matter what your condition is. You control your thoughts, and you control your thoughts control you, and you respond to the dominant thoughts that you're thinking most of the time. And unless you've had too much to drink, then you got a problem. But here's the thing: our attitude, my wife and I, we live a healthy life. We have a sort of a funny mantra that says, if man made the food, we don't eat it, because a lot of prepared food is simply not nutritionally sound. So we're careful. We're not radical. I'll eat a hamburger and I'm fine, and I'll have a glass of wine, but nothing radical. But we are very careful about what we eat and what we put into our bodies. We're not avid activity in terms. I do my own isometric exercises every day, stretching and so on. but I'm not into the gym or pushing weights or doing anything radical, running marathons. And I guess I'm doing a mental marathon with my Guinness record, which, by the way, has never been done before. It's first time, and so the record's in the bag. I just want to give my grandkids some serious bragging rights.
Oh no, and for sure. Now, by writing this where you're at, how does AI come into play with this?
Well, it's interesting. I discovered AI about a month and a half ago, 2 months. I had 7 done before then, but it's huge for me for research. I got a book being published in 2 weeks on immigration. And of course, I'm a new American citizen. So I was a Canadian, then I was previously a British subject, a British citizen. But to answer your question, AI is enormous for me for research. I found it very, very useful. My publisher is key on that. I submit the stories, and I have always do a draft and so on, and complete the groundwork for it. I've got one coming out. It's on immigration, which is to do with the current immigration issues in the United States. And then I've got a political book. Since we just became citizens, I feel passionate about the political situation here in the United States, which is, to me, it's a sad situation. But the research on that allowed me to do some in-depth kind of analysis of the situation, and that's all spelled out in the book. I'd say most of it I knew already, but what helps me is facilitating the flow of it sometimes. And but it's all original stuff. Everything throughout all of these books is my stuff for sure. No question about that.
Hey, take a minute and smash that subscribe button, and let's get back to the episode.
Now I want to get to the question, because when I said AI and you said it for a few months ago, it's kind of like one of those things. Where were you when 9/11 happened, right? And everybody, it's one of those things in time. They'll say, you know what, that day, 9/11, I know exactly where I was, how I was standing, right? So now it comes then when you, and I even know that the date when were you, and it's not that Chat GPT and AI had been around. It has been around for a bit. But when that one day, and you said a few months ago that you got introduced to it, and it's like, wait, it can actually do this? It can do that. Do you remember that day?
Oh, absolutely. My publisher called and she said, David, you keep sending me these. I won't use what she said, but she said, you keep sending me these notes. And I did. I would send her a chapter or content and adding this to another chapter. And she said, why don't you go and ask some questions on chat? And I said, well, excuse me, but how the hell am I going to do that? And she said, well, just go online. And I did. And I'm not really techie, to be honest. I mean, I'm not scared of it, but I just haven't really taken. I don't like it. I just do it because it makes me function better, and I'm functional, but I'm not efficient. And therein lies the goal. I think with a lot of guys my age, some of them won't even touch it. I have one friend who's a PhD economics, and he won't even touch the computer. He's my age, so I feel sad for him because he's missing stuff. It's. Older people kind of lose their goals and dreams. I think it all has to do, coming back, going full circle on your original question.
Yes.
I think it has a lot to do with your goals and dreams. If you're goalless or dreamless, you're almost like emotionally dead. I mean, if your whole week is wondering what's going to be on TV, then I'm saddened for that, because there's more to life than that. I mean, my greatest thrill is I went yesterday into a store, and this gal came up to me. She said, I thank you so much for sending that note. She did a great favor for me in one of the stores, and I sent a note to her president and said she needs to be promoted. And well, she got a note back, of course, and it was fun. I love to reward people for their good stuff, but that's all part of the goals and dream, is to help support other people, to help them to become more successful in what they do, and hopefully they can have a better life as a result of it.
So when you're saying that goals and dreams, and then you just said you feel sorry for these people that don't have that ambition and goal, how do you get somebody to kind of open up to that? Because all of a sudden they get themselves into a funk. They get themselves in this, that they wish they shoulda, coulda, woulda's, or whatever their lives. Is there anything that would be to them to say, okay, from my experience, they should do this, or take a look at this, or here's an advice or an idea?
Well, then now you get into, of course, the mindset of to where they are really at. Now, unfortunately, there's a lot of psychological conditioning to both well, to all of us, frankly, from the TV and the media, um, you've if you're not happy with where you're at, you're not going to change it unless you do something. So you have to arrive at a point where there's enough irritation in your brain to say, okay, I'm not happy. I'm going to make some changes, and then actually make the changes. But before you do that, you should seek out some directional help. There's lots of great books on how to do that, to be able to change your life if you want to. Unfortunately, we become, procrastination is the mother of failure. And I was very good at that for a long time. um, you've got to decide to change, and changes creates a lot of fear in people. They don't like to upset the apple cart, but unless you do, it's not dangerous. It's not life threatening. It's just habituated thinking that creates you from moving forward if you're stuck. You've just got to change the way you're thinking. It doesn't take a lot to do that, by the way. You can just do a quick review and come up, well, what's wrong? What can I do about it? We have a 10-point program to do that in our relationship. If something's wrong, we go to work and we solve the problem, or try to. And usually we do.
And you said a 10-point system. What is that?
Well, we evaluate each issue. In other words, and that's a 2-part program there. But there's 10. If you take an approach to a problem, and you make a list of 10 ways to solve the problem, instead of arguing about it or grinding it out and repeating it, just come up with some positive solutions that are potentially going to solve the problem for you, and that allows you to then to develop a positive approach to the issues. If if a person is sitting, wondering what they can do, and they're sad, and maybe they have a health issue, and I understand that they can work around that up to, and unless you're totally incapacitated, there's always room for improvement to change where you're at. Make new friends, get on the phone, get online. There's all kinds of ways to be able to improve, but you have to want to do it in the first place. And when the irritation is big enough, you'll make some decisions and move forward, hopefully.
And is there any advice that you would tell somebody that say, okay, they got to have irritation to get through it? Like from your experience, the friends that you've had and said, okay, listen, we've got to get you to the next level. I'm not there to do therapy. Okay. I'm here to listen to you shoulder to shoulder and talk to you about growing. Do you ever give them advice and say, okay, I need you to go write a book with me, or anything out there to give them more advice to break that paradigm of that shift, to get them out of the funk?
First of all, you can't really motivate people. You're going to get motivated from your own thought process and analyzing, where you're at and what you think you need to do to change. Now, I can be an encourager, and I certainly am in that. And I'll give you a recent example that's frankly not working. I have a friend, a professor of economics. He's the same age as me. Told me he was willing to do this and wanted to work on it, and I even gave him a format for a book. The title of the book was called The Professor, and I helped him with some original information. I gave it to him. He was thrilled. He said, "This is fantastic." But you know what? He hasn't done one thing since, even though he said he wanted to, because he's comfortable in his comfort zone. You've got to get out of your comfort zone to make any changes. And that's fearful, and sometimes, creates some real drama when you do that, because you're changing your activity and your thought paradigms.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Now, looking at yourself, where you're at right now, you're going to have this Guinness Book of World Records in there. You're going to have them go in there, and you're going to be around for obviously quite a long time here. What's your next goal after this?
Part of my writing situation is already producing the next major goal, which is frankly beyond the Guinness Record attempt. I have a little organization called the International Entrepreneurs Association. And that is a global initiative to teach and train 700 million entrepreneurs around the world who are marginalized, probably will never have the opportunity to learn how to develop their creative skills and their entrepreneurial thinking, I'm going to give them that opportunity. I'm in the process. Well, the website's already up, and I'm in the process of forming a Delaware corporation. The funding will come through yet another effort that I'm doing, which is called the famous50.com website. The Famous 50 site, which is currently under construction, but it's finished, but it's not actually up. It will allow 50 entrepreneurs. The introduction book, by the way, is fantastic. I've invited 50 of the world's entrepreneurs. I mean, this is Elon's and the top guys in the world to be involved, to teach and train these entrepreneurs and be a participant, if they want to, in this effort to teach and train entrepreneurs around the world. We're in the process. Part of the process will involve recruiting an executive director from each country or each major state or province or section of the country that's large enough to accommodate an executive director, who will then take over and run that area. We're going to be using import-export as a revenue stream, plus the memberships, plus corporate sponsorships and all kinds of things to teach and train. Here's the real challenge in entrepreneurship. There was a guy by the name of Ken Robinson, Sir Ken Robinson, who was a Brit, and he was knighted for the work he did in exposing how, in his opinion, which I think is very valid, in his opinion, the traditional educational system puts a lid on creativity because it's of the conformity within the structural instruction systems. And why do you need to learn calculus to be a carpenter? And then to add insult to injury, if you go to a university to learn entrepreneurship, you're probably going to be taught by a professor who, with due respect, has never owned a business, probably. And I mean, you cannot teach something you haven't learned. And it's a process, that somebody has to go through. It's some do, some don't, some what, so will. What next, right? It's you can't help everybody in the world, for sure.
All right, well, let's get into this. So how is anybody going to get a hold of this? What's the website to be able to do this, to be a part of that?
Well, the website is, it's a shortened version of the International Entrepreneurs Association.com. The short version of that is IEA777.com.
Perfect. You know what? Thank you very much for being on Shed Talk. We're going to get more on the entrepreneurial side of it and talk more. Thanks again. And we'll have to do this again. Thanks for coming on board.
Great. Nice to meet you, and good luck to everybody on board here. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Now you know. Shed Talk.